you to continue your study when you go back home. If you have teachers or you have a way to continue your practice in a group, it's very helpful. The sitting with other group members to have access to the teachings and to continue to really feed your spirit in this way is important to development of the path. So we have KTD here, which is the main seat of His Holiness the Karmapa in North America, who is really the head of our lineage. We talked about the 4 lineages. The Nyingmapa lineage that is from the Guru Padmasambhava. And there is the Gelug tradition, the tradition of the Dalai Lamas, and one of study and contemplation, well, study and debate and intellectual understanding. And then there's the Kagyu tradition. The Kagyu and the Nyingma tradition are very closely related. There are teachers who share lineages in both of those. The Kagyu tradition is known as the practice lineage, so we do have this tradition of 3-year retreat and meditation practice that is really foremost. Not that there are not really wonderful scholars in the tradition, but we also focus equally on practice, direct experience of the teaching, and the Sakya tradition as well, the more younger of the 4. But it is all, these are the 4 principal schools. There are lesser schools as well, but these are the 4 principal schools. You know Zen Buddhism, which is the Japanese style, and Chan Buddhism of China, and there are other schools of Buddhism, but these are the 4 Tibetan lineages that I've just mentioned. And KTD represents the Karmakaju lineage and is the seat of His Holiness the 17th Karmapa, who in June had his 22nd birthday. I was fortunate enough to be there when he had his 21st birthday, which is a wonderful celebration in Dharamsala. He's currently residing in the Kyoto Tantric Monastery that is His Holiness the Dalai Lama's monastery, but he was given, when he came out of Tibet, sought refuge in India, by the kindness of the Dalai Lama, gave him this residence, so he has a wonderful place to be there. And so hopefully he'll be here in the not-too-distant future, and you'll have the good fortune of meeting him. Meeting him would certainly accentuate the connection with this school, and meeting His Holiness is quite a profound experience, I can say, from my experience. He's an incredible being. So you may know that when I say the 17th Karmapa, 17 incarnations from the time of the first Karmapa, who was a student of Gampopa's. They leave a letter about who their parents will be, where they'll be found, very nice of them to say, okay, this is where I'm going next. It's like a change of clothes. I'm going to be found here, these women. And then those tokus, those other realized beings, go and find them and recognize them. Often, if you've seen Kundun and some of these other things, several of the objects, this was in the Dalai Lama, but it's similar. These are the compassionate beings, reflections and embodiment of Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva of compassion, loving kindness, who continue to return for our benefit. So they continually come back, intentionally, to be of benefit to us. So, as was in the movie, his glasses, his mala, certain things that he would have, along with some other things, were put out, and he said, "This is mine, and this is, a little child," and this is done repeatedly. So, the idea of reincarnation, is a very important tenet inside of Buddhism, and they demonstrate that repeatedly in terms of the Karmapa, 17 times, in terms of the Dalai Lama, 14 times. This is the 14th Dalai Lama, the 17th Karmapa. So these are the kind of the history of these particular lineages. Starting, from the Buddha 2,500 years ago, Siddhartha Gautama, he was born in Lumbini, which was part of India, now Nepal. But he was, and is still considered one of the major pilgrimage spots for Buddhists. And then born with the parents of this royal family, Sudana, his father, and Mahamaya, the queen of the Shakya clan here in northern India, near the Nepali border. So this was a real human being who went through many lifetimes of purification and transformation to come to attain the causes and conditions necessary to become a Buddha. Buddha means, one who's awakened. After he sat under the Bodhi tree and became awakened, we mentioned that he didn't teach for 49 days, but when he did teach, it was to his former ascetics. He was an extreme ascetic and really fasted and did extreme exercises to the point of total exhaustion and death, until he decided that, this wasn't really the path. That wasn't going to do it, and he did get sustenance from this milk maiden and became stronger. And his former mates saw him and were going to ridicule him because eating and taking this middle way, as it is called, they thought was kind of abandoning the tradition. But when they saw him, they saw his countenance, they saw his demeanor, they were so taken aback, they said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Buddha," which means, "I'm awakened." So Buddha means, one who's awakened. That's different from the Tibetan word, which is Sanjay. If you were in the having breakfast with us, we do the prayer. When we take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. This word, and you'll hear the word Sanjay, Sang means purifying all negativity, all impurity, all defilements. And Jay means completely flourishing and bringing to fruition all that is positive virtue. Sanjay, eliminating the negative and accumulating or having achieved the ultimate virtue. So the word is a little bit different for we call the enlightened Buddha in Tibetan, Sanjay. So we've been talking about really what constitutes the Buddha's teaching, and that is to give up negativity, to cultivate positive action, and to tame the mind. So Sanjay really is about that. It's about purifying negativity and cultivating virtuous activity and taming the mind. Once again, we go back to that same idea. But the potential for Buddhahood remains the same in all of us, and that is very important. This Buddha nature is true and unscathed, untouched, undiminished in any way, no matter what defilements we might have. It's often compared to the sun. This radiant quality of Buddhahood. It may be obscured by our habitual patterns, our negativities, but the sun remains the sun regardless. Or often gold, that might have ore. We purify it, but the gold is the gold, and it remains unchanged. So similarly, this Buddha nature is perfect in and of itself. The negativities that have occurred over eons since beginningless time has not changed our Buddha nature, but it has been obscured because of our habitual patterns of negativity, wrong thinking, ignorance, attachment. And this Sanjay, getting rid of the negative and accumulating the positive, is what we're talking about here. It's the other word for the Buddha. And the role of meditation in this, these are time-tested methods for uncovering and uprooting these negative kleshas, as they're called, these negative emotions. You may hear the word klesha. It's a Sanskrit word, and it basically means these negative patterns, anger, greed, jealousy. These are kleshas that obscure our realization of our true nature. So we try to, the root cause of this is always ignorance, not truly understanding the nature of our own mind. And in this context, ignorance doesn't mean stupidity. It means not lacking wisdom, really, more than anything. Lacking the true understanding, realizing one's true nature, the natural mind. And that's why meditation is so highly prized, because it is the most effective way of cultivating wisdom. That's why we do it. So I got sidetracked. I was talking about KTD, and that was a diversion, and the KTC. So some of you, when you go home, to have an opportunity to plug in with, a KTC. This is the Karma Thigsan Choling is a place where one meditates. Karma Triyana Dharma Chakra is the same. KTD and KTCs are the same. One's Tibetan, one's Sanskrit, but they mean the same thing. Karma Triyana Dharma Chakra is the Sanskrit word, and the KTC, the Karma Thigsan Choling, is the same thing in Tibetan. But we call them KTCs, and this is KTD. But if you have the opportunity then to make contact with, and there are many of these centers. We have 3 of them in Florida, in Jacksonville, Gainesville, and Tampa. We're very fortunate. They're not in every state and every locale, but you always have this center to come to, and those centers, those KTCs that are around the country, around the world, really, do offer programs and teachings in this tradition. So I encourage you, and there are lists of these KTCs in a little pamphlet that is by the door that you, if you don't know where your closest KTC is, you could check that out and find it. But lineage is important, and staying with the lineage and staying with the teacher also has benefit, because different teachers teach different ways, and it can be very confusing, particularly in the beginning, to go from one teacher to another. It can be very confounding, confusing, and lead to not much progress. And so in the beginning, one kind of checks out the different teachers, and there will be some who you naturally have an affinity for that you kind of resonate with, and that's great. And if you can maintain a relationship with the teacher in that way, this spiritual friend, to guide you through your training, who's a reliable source of refuge in this way, as we said, refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. These are members of the Sangha who are carry the lineage tradition from the time of the Buddha right down in an unbroken line. So these are the people that you want to seek counsel from. These are the people who you want to, if you have a question about meditation, that you want to talk to. And so we make a big deal out of lineage, and appropriately so. It's important. Any question about anything so far? We talked about the first turning of the wheel of Dharma when the Buddha first taught after his enlightenment, the Four Noble Truths. The Buddha taught for 45 years, after his enlightenment, and died at the age of 80. There's some question about his cause of death, but it was poisoning of some sort, whether it was food poisoning or blood poisoning or something. So it was time. But the Buddha, does not die. That quality of the Buddha is still very available. And when we look at a statue, a rupa or a tanka, we treat that as a manifestation of the Buddha as well. And it is very real for us to take that as a representation and actual physical nirmanakaya aspect of the Buddha himself. But the importance of the teacher, the Buddha lived 2,500 years ago. Your teacher is here right now, is considered, as a guru, a teacher, as someone who is even more important than that, because that's the person who's going to give you the map, give you the directions, and take you to the place. So having a relationship with your teacher that is ongoing and is extremely helpful. And as you progress along the path in the Vajrayana in particular, it's very important. As these teachings become more and more somewhat complex, and the teaching becomes more and more precise, you want to make sure that your practice is right. So we talked about the Hinayana commitments as well. The Hinayana motivation is an individual liberation, from suffering. Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana. The Hinayana vehicle, it's called the lesser vehicle, but, it is a very important vehicle. It has to do with, understanding these Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering. Suffering is inherent, part of life. And the truth of the cause of suffering. Suffering is caused by this excessive attachment to a self. And, there's really no solid, permanent, inherent existence, but we attach ourselves to things, individuals, ideas that are ephemeral, and our cause of suffering is our attachment to these things. Although this is review, I think it's okay to hear it again, and again and again. The truth of cessation, the third truth, is that, peace is possible by abandoning our clinging to these afflictive emotions, these negative habitual patterns. And that's what the Buddha's teaching is about, is, how do we go about doing that? And then there's the truth of the path itself. This identifies summarizes, basically, do no harm, cultivate virtue, and tame your mind. And everything else, as we said, like last night, is about doing that. The path. And we also made the analogy of, the physician and taking the medicine. We go to the physician because we have a problem, it's diagnosed, we're giving the medicine, and to get better, we have to take it. And it's not such a bitter pill. It's really, as you do the practice, it brings such joy, happiness, and well-being that it facilitates your wanting to continue to do that, and your compassion and loving kindness continues to grow as you let go of these negative emotions and kleshas, the anger, the attachment, the fears that create such upheaval in our lives. So, one's progress on the path is shown by one's ease, and harmony in life. It seems even with suffering, you're not attached to it in the same kind of way. We all suffer. You see that, this is not peculiar to you. And, as we do this Tonglen practice, and we send out loving thoughts and healing and well-being to a particular individual or to all sentient beings, and we take in their negative qualities and suffering and ignorance and dis-ease, we more and more see the nature of suffering in the world. And by doing this practice, by becoming Buddhas ourselves, is really the only way we can be of benefit to others. So that drives us to practice. We can sometimes think we're doing benefit for beings with our limited understanding, and maybe we're helping, maybe we're not. Certainly having the intention to help is good, but because we're not enlightened, because we can't see the whole picture, we're not omniscient, we do the best we can inside of that. But to be truly helpful, let's be Buddhas. I think that's how we want to do that. So the Hinayana view of the Four Noble Truths, is turning away from cyclic existence in a very individual manner. We're not so concerned, the Hinayana practitioners, not so concerned about others at this point. They're more concerned about getting out of the samsaric turn of the wheel, rebirth, and experiencing nirvana or blissful state. And